This is your number one source for all things comics, movies, and pop culture. It's Geek Week with Chris and Nick.
You're tuned in to Geek Week.
I'm Chris Natale.
And I'm Nick Rotundo.
To all those listening, thanks for joining our discussion.
And if you missed last week's episode, you can hear it on our SoundCloud account at www.soundcloud.com/geekweek885. And also be sure to follow WRKC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at I believe it is 885 WRKC. Also be sure to follow us on Facebook. Our Facebook is Geek Week 885.
All right, guys. Well, this week's topic, we're going to talk about comic book facts that you won't learn from the movies. I'm going to start with Marvel, and we're going to start with the Guardians of the Galaxy.
And let's be honest here, I loved that movie, dude. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies out there.
I think it was really good because people went in not knowing what to expect and then got blown away by how good it was.
I agree completely, 100%. I think being such like underrated characters, like barely anybody heard of them. They barely ever read their like the Guardian of the Galaxy comics. So when that came out, a lot of people didn't know what to expect, and it was just amazing. And I thank James Gunn for that, honestly.
There are a bunch of delinquents in space that pretty much need to save the galaxy in the sense, and it's just the dynamic of the whole team, all the characters together just work so well. And I didn't know about them before that movie, and as soon as I did, I was like, wow, I need to learn more about these guys. So I just want to make a shout out to Rob Bricken at io9.gizmodo.com because he gave me these facts that I learned about them that I never knew. So I'm going to start off with the fact that none of the Guardians in the movie were part of the original team in the comics.
Really?
Which amazed me. I was like, what?
Yeah.
How did they... And I was like, this is great.
Like, so, I would have honestly thought at least Star-Lord was...
at least somebody.
Yeah.
And it was like... So the original team was Vance Astro, who's a 20th century astronaut, Martin X, a crystalline alien, Charlie 27, a human living on Jupiter,
what?
And then Yondu, which was... He was kind of Star-Lord's mentor in the movie, but he wasn't on the actual team.
Yeah, he was part of the Ravagers.
Yeah, he's a blue lion. Oh my gosh, a blue alien from Alpha Centauri. He's played by Michael Rooker in the movie. For those of you who didn't know that, he's also Merle on The Walking Dead.
And he was also in, I believe it was Black Ops 2 or 3. I know he did a voice on one of them.
Yeah.
I think it was 2.
He did a great job as like Yondu. I can't wait to see him return. And I heard he's getting the fin.
He's getting the fin in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I saw that on set. I saw a picture of it. It looked awesome.
Yeah, man, I can't wait for Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and the new Volume 2 mixtape that they're going to put out for that.
Definitely.
The soundtrack is really what made the movie even better. So.
Oh, yeah. We'll hear one of those songs. I put up one of the songs from the soundtrack for you guys, so you'll enjoy that. But, yeah, I agree. That soundtrack really, like, I mean, because Star-Lord is supposed to be, like, this character from, like, the early 70s, late 70s, when he was growing up before he got taken into space. So that's all he knows music-wise.
Yeah.
So this Volume 2, from what I've heard, is all late 70s stuff that like his mom gave to him. So I'm excited to hear that.
Same. The next fact I'm going to talk about is that they were actually rebels of the 31st century. So when they originally formed the team, they did it to fight the Badoon, which is an alien race that I was really like I said, really shocked about these facts. They were an alien race that had taken over most of the galaxy in 3007 AD, and they destroyed a significant amount of humans throughout like the galaxy. So, and the Guardians called heroes like Captain America to the future to help them, or to like help them travel back to the 20th century to get info on the Badoon, which would actually completely mess with the timeline, which kind of reminded me of Flash a little bit because he likes to do that.
Of course, the Flashpoint.
So for like example, like Astro, the 20th century astronaut, met his younger self at one point, awakened his superpowers too early, which led him to become an entirely different superhero, which I thought was like, wow, this is like is like Barry going back in time, losing his powers all over again in Flashpoint. Like, that's what I thought of immediately.
Yeah.
The next fact was it took 21 years for them to get their own comic book. I had no idea. That was they first showed up in comics in 1969, I believe, and their first official comic wasn't actually published until 1990.
So I wasn't even born yet. So
Yeah, I was just born 2 years after that. So
yeah.
It was cool because it ran for 62 issues before it got canceled, so it's a decent run. They lived instead of living in Earth 616, they lived in Earth 691.
So okay, so like Earth 616, for those who don't know, is the basically the normal Marvel universe. This is where your friendly neighborhood Amazing Spider-Man is from, the Avengers, the list goes on and on. Then of course there's the 1616 universe, which is the ultimate universe where Peter Parker's a teenager again in modern times and so on. So I didn't even know there was this Earth. I just knew of like Earth X, or whatever I think it's called, where like Captain America is bald and like has a American flag wrapped around him or whatever, and like there's all these other there's these weird worlds there, but I'd never even heard of this other world, so this is news to me.
Yeah, it was so weird to see this. I was like, all right, I can cope with it. The second Guardians series debuted in 2008 with a team that was much closer to the movies, like Star-Lord and all of them, and they operated in the 21st century. So like it was cool to see that they had this series and then they kind of just like adapted to the movie, because like these are the characters we all knew and loved.
Yeah, it was almost like a reboot, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, they
weren't,
weren't.
as much as I hate that word.
I mean, it's not. I mean, rebirth. Oh gosh, reboot isn't. It's not. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's like a new kind of adaptation for comics. So it's always cool to see what creators can come up with. I feel like.
I agree on that, because I mean, let's be honest here. We loved Star-Lord. We loved all these different characters that were in the movie. So the fact that they decided to take the newer models of the Guardians of the Galaxy and kind of stick with them and then kind of reference the old ones, I like that. It's kind of like, best of both worlds. Yeah,
I agree. This series is like, they weren't actually a part of the Marvel Universe until this series came out, which is cool too. Is like I just love learning as a comic fan. I love learning like new things and like facts that I never knew about comic book characters. It's kind of what I live for, because obviously I'm a geek. So
of course,
but yeah,
I mean, we both are. Let's be honest here.
The next fact is that Star-Lord was actually immaculately conceived, which blew my mind.
Yeah, I mean, so the movie here, we all, if you've been reading on like comicbook.com and other sites like that, you know that not Michael Douglas. Who's the guy that's playing the planet that turns out to be his father? Spoiler alert! In Guardians of the Galaxy 2, they released who it was. Kurt Russell. There we go. Kurt Russell is going to be playing this planet, like this living planet, who turns out to be his father. And originally in the comics, that's not his father. So, but like, they're doing some similarities, I guess you would say. But they mentioned that Kurt Russell's planet form turns into a human form to start to date or have relations with Peter Quill's mother. So the fact that even in the comics they mentioned that he's immaculately received, that's weird.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give a rundown of how this all went down. So his mother, Meredith, Peter's mother, Meredith, was impregnated when the planet's solar system aligned, which is insane. Her husband knew that Peter was not his and assumed that she cheated on him, which is kind of crazy, because it's like, why would... I don't know why you immediately go to that drastic measure, but after that, he then tried to kill Peter.
Jeez.
But suffered from a heart attack before he could actually pull it off.
Oh, man.
Yeah, like I said, this blew my mind. Instead, in the movie, Meredith gets knocked up by a humanoid alien named Jason from Sport Toy, apparently. This is what actually happens. Jason leaves because his people are at war with another alien race and thinks it's too dangerous to take his family with him, which I was like, if you think it's dangerous for your family, why not just take him with you to protect them?
Yeah, I
don't
agree
get
completely on that.
And his dad becomes like an intergalactic deadbeat and leaves Peter with nothing besides the element guns that he uses. Like, that's it.
They didn't even mention, I don't think they mentioned in the movie how he got the element guns. Like,
no,
he kind of just, I'm guessing because he was a Ravager that like
Yeah, I guess they just want you to just assume that that's what happened. But
Yeah.
maybe they'll kind of develop the story in the second one with his dad. You never
They
know.
do mention in the first one that Yondu was supposed to he took Peter from Earth because he was supposed to bring him to his father. So, but instead decided to keep him.
Yeah.
Almost ate him, but
Yeah, exactly. So the next fact is that Rocket Raccoon was actually inspired by the Beatles song, which we'll play during the break, and it's called Rocky Raccoon.
yes, I mean that. When you told me about that yesterday, I was like, really? Like I'm honestly a Beatles fan here. I mean, who isn't? But they pretty much revolutionized everything music. So I mean, that's why I fell in love with them. But to me, I had to listen to this song because I had never even heard this song, and I was like, the fact that Marvel listened to like Beatles and like all these other music, and then it's like, okay, we're gonna inspire a character from that song. That's just awesome to me. I mean, being at a radio station, obviously, it's comics are now being created from the music that we listen to. So it kind of just is one big happy family now.
It just shows you that, like, kind of, I feel like any medium could contribute to a comic book character and their creation in a way.
Yeah,
Especially music. So this character was created by Bill Mantlo and Keith Giffen in 1976 for a section in the Marvel preview book, and then didn't make his official debut like until around 1982. And it was actually in a Incredible Hulk issue that was written by Mantlo, which was cool to see. I was like, why Incredible Hulk? I was like, out of all the, it was odd to me. And the title of the book was Now Somewhere in the Black Holes of Sirius Major there lived a young boy named Rocket Raccoon, which was like the longest title I've ever even heard of. I was like, what? All right.
I mean, like for me, if I was gonna introduce like Rocket Raccoon, this like outer space raccoon, like that like talks and is like an experiment and everything, who would you send him to? Like what comic would you introduce him in besides his own? Like for me, I feel like either like Iron Man, because he goes into space sometimes. He was on the Guardians team at one point too, but at the same time, like they didn't do that till later on in the newer comics. I know. For me, I mean, like that's who I would have introduced him with. Maybe that or like something crazy like.
I would have said like maybe Inhumans because
I would have
because they're from a different planet called I think Adawan, and it would have been cool to see how that tied in. Maybe he could have been an Inhuman. Like I found out when Miss Marvel was an Inhuman, like Kamala Khan, I was like, what? That's how she has her powers. I just thought that would be a cool idea. Maybe people agree, disagree. Either way, like I think Iron Man or it could work for either or depending like the situation. But the next fact is actually insane in a way because Rocket's first job was actually in an insane asylum.
What?
I don't know. He was one of the several animals that were caretakers of the people in the asylum, in the Galactic Asylum. And what kind of happened was that
so strange.
I know these are weird facts that I would have never knew, but they're cool at the same time. So aliens set up a world to house the insane for study. It eventually lost its funding, and then the aliens like, all right, guys, peace. I'm going to make some robots, and they're going to take care of everyone here. And then the robots thought that the patients deserved better companions, so they modified Earth animals that the aliens had left behind. Which you think the aliens would just take everything with them, but hey, why not leave the animals? And that's eventually. Like the patients were cured by these robots, and Rocket was like, all right, now I'm going to go to and explore the galaxy. See you later. Like, bye. It's like, all right.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, what was your take on Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon?
I didn't have a problem with him.
I loved him, but the weird thing for me is that when I would see him in like an animated movie or TV show, or even just in like the Marvel vs. Capcom or anything like that, I've always heard him with like a Scottish accent.
Yeah, I don't understand why that is, considering he's like a genetically modified alien animal from a different planet.
Yeah, and so when I first heard that Bradley Cooper was going to be playing Rocket Raccoon, I was like, wait, really? Like, is he going to do the accent? Or is and I heard it, and I was like, you know what? I like this. Like, I like it a lot better.
Just for like an introduction to the character, I think Bradley Cooper did a good job with the voice.
Oh yeah.
The next one is actually one that, like, one of my favorite facts about this. Groot could originally speak and talk, like,
No.
had dialect.
See, for me, like, that just kind of takes away from the character.
Dialogue. Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Anyway.
yeah, all of a sudden dialogue takes away from a character.
I don't know. It was funny because Brute. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. Groot was actually he made threats against the human race, and he would stop by the Earth like back in the '60s just to like mess around and say, "Yeah, I'm here to just like mess with the planet and leave." And that was his. I was like, what? Why?
Yeah, that's like, it's weird to see like him be like some sort of villain or anti-hero in any type of way, especially
the way he's like shown in the movie. But hey,
Yeah.
like this is how he originally was. So it's cool to see the transformation between what he was then to now, and like how much has changed with his character.
He almost like in the movie reminded me of like a monk in the sense that like he was so peaceful and like did things when he had to, but like it was always about peace, giving like the little flower to the girl or whatever, and then even sacrificing himself at the end.
Yeah, that was a tough scene to watch. I didn't want to think about it.
Yeah.
But okay, so he first arrived on Earth in the book Tales to Astonish number 13, yelling that he's this monarch from Planet X, and he was going to take a small town back to his planet. And the way he was going to do this, I just think this is ridiculous, is he turned to a nearby forest, and he made it into his personal army with a planet to lift the town into space. And then this scientist, Dr. Leslie Evans, just dropped a pile of like termites on him.
Oh,
And
jeez.
it destroyed him, which was like,
Comics back then.
you're trying to take a town, and this is the embarrassing part. You're a tree-like creature trying to take
Yeah.
a town. You get a whole army together from a nearby forest, and then someone drops termites on you, and you're done.
Oh,
I'm like, I know, I get it, but like, come on.
comics back then to me were just so corny, and that's why I loved them, but
Yeah.
hated them at the same
This
time.
is like-
Like Green Lantern's original power was he's like vulnerable to wood. I was like, really? I'm gonna throw a piece of bark at him. He's gonna fall over.
And the color yellow, so you could literally throw number 2 at him, and he would go down without a fight. Yeah. So the next fact, I wasn't really surprised about, because we all know how Tony Stark is with women.
Oh, let's be real here.
Gamora and Iron Man apparently had sexual relations recently in the comics.
See, to me, I mean, okay, Pepper Potts to me was always the best fit for Tony, because I mean, let's be real here. We've always seen that. I mean, Mary Jane Watson actually in the comics. I don't know if you knew this.
I feel like Pepper Potts is like the lowest to Tony Stark's Superman.
Yes, I agree on that. And actually, there were mentions in the comics of like a past relationship between Tony Stark and Mary Jane Watson, and now she's working for him in the comics and has her own suit.
Yeah. I think Tony just has a way with women, I guess.
Well, I mean, as he states, I mean, this isn't canon because it's part of the Spidey universe that I like to read. He actually talks to Peter as Spider-Man and like gives him advice, and he says, "I've always had a thing for redheads." And I just laughed at that, like, because that's such a reference to Mary Jane and also to Pepper Potts. Even though at the time in this comic series that I'm reading, Peter didn't even like know Mary Jane. He's talking about Gwen and like all these other people.
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about Tony Stark and Mary Jane. I just don't. I don't know. I think
but
it's
like even just now, Gamora, like, you're stealing Star-Lord's girl here, man.
and Thanos' like stepdaughter. You're stepping on
Yeah.
some big toes here.
Yeah, seriously.
So and that's funny because like the next thing we're talking about is that the fact that Thanos actually has a heart and gives Gamora Christmas presents. Like, he actually cares. This dude sat in his chair on Christmas, somehow found an American Christmas tree, had it in his living room and wherever he was, and gave her presents. And this is the dude that told Ronan in the movie, "I'll bathe the galaxy with your blood." Like, what?
I mean, also, this is the same guy in the movie who just wouldn't stand from his chair. And I like to mention that because I love the fact that he just sits there and is like, boy, you do what I say, and I'm gonna sit right here and enjoy it.
Because he's the guy. He's pretty much like Marvel's Darkseid.
Oh,
He doesn't
I
have to
know.
lift a finger to do anything usually, and has people to do it for him. And
then, of
Thanos'
course-
presence is just
Of course, the after
powerful.
credits.
yeah,
Fine,
yeah.
I'll do it myself.
Finally, he gets off the chair, and you hear those big footsteps. You're like, oh my gosh, things are about to go down.
Oh God! But
This-
I love that because even in the movie, like, he didn't really. Did he give like Gamora that much attention? Because he always said Nebula was his favorite daughter.
He didn't really give her that much attention, but clearly in the comics, he cared
Yeah.
for Gamora.
That's weird.
The next thing I want to mention is this is something that you'd never really think about if you think about Dave Bautista and his Drax adaptation.
And also,
is that
this is, I guess, in a way, a nice little shout out to me because I don't know if I told you about this. Back in high school, I was in marching band, so Drax and I kind of have something in common here now.
Oh God. So Drax was actually a real estate agent, like in his origin, and his real name was Arthur Douglas, and he played the saxophone. I was like, okay, all right. So what happens is he accidentally spots Thanos on a mission to Earth, and then Thanos sees that he spots him, destroys his car, and kills him. I was like, all right, that escalated really quickly. This dude's a real estate like agent playing a saxophone player, and Thanos just took it to a whole another level like he usually does. But then Thanos' father's mentor is his name. Thanos' father, he imbues the spirit of Arthur into a clay body and makes the sole mission of that body to kill his son Thanos. I was like, that's another way of escalating things. Like it went from him killing Arthur to now him being like created by Thanos' father to kill him.
In a way, that's kind of like Greek mythology in a sense that, like, I mean, Zeus and like all of his kids. I think Zeus didn't really care as much, but his father, I'm blanking on his name. I had this class last semester, and it was all about like Greek mythology and philosophy, but it was like all about how chaos was like the beginning of Greek mythology, and basically it was he found out that his son would kill him and overthrow him, and so he decided to like slaughter like all of his children, and like then except like one who survived somehow or whatever, and then he killed him and took over, and then he was kind of a jerk as well, finding out that his kids were going to do the same thing, so he ended up eating all of his children, eating them except for Zeus, who then took over.
Jeez.
Yeah, so
that's a rough life.
so the fact that like Mentor, Thanos' father, is like, hey, go kill my son for me.
His name's also Mentor, which when you think of Mentor, it's like a good thing. And then he had Thanos, which is like the devil spawn of kids. And like, oh God, I don't even know. I just thought that was cool to see. And also, Drax has died many times, but has only managed to kill Thanos once in his whole comics career.
That's awesome.
I mean, at least he did it once, better than none.
Yeah.
Because like Thanos could have just mopped the floor with him, but like he managed to get up on him one time. I'd like to see how, because I'm just out of curiosity.
I'm probably going to go Google that after this show now.
The next fact is that Ronan the Accuser isn't that evil, and I was like, is he though? Is he really not that evil?
I mean, if you're living in like what is it? He's part of the Kree, I believe.
He was a Kree fanatic in the movie where like, he was too extreme with everything.
If you're part of the Kree, I guess you would say he's not that evil because he's doing you a favor. But I mean, you're looking at it like he's an evil dictator trying to take over the entire universe. To me, that's evil.
Yeah, that's just how the movie represents him. But like the way that he was talked about just through these facts is that like he's not a bad guy because he's like the supreme accuser of the alien Kree Empire, which we just talked about, which makes him third in command of the entire race, right? So he does a little bit of invading, which it's the Kree thing to do, but he's not outright evil like Thanos is, like consistently.
So he's basically Marvel's Zod.
I guess I don't know much about Ronan to like make that justification, but I was just like, okay, come on, give me some more. And then this is when I was like, okay, maybe he's not actually that bad. In 2007, he actually hired Star-Lord as like his military advisor. And Star-Lord's like, I'll do it, sure, and accepted it. Yeah, I don't know. So, and it's funny because it actually didn't work out, which probably explains their relationship and why he hates him so much, is that Star-Lord let these Borg-like phalanx, like soldiers, take over the entire Kree Empire through this like techno virus. I don't know. So Ronan was like, I want to be nice and be friends. So become my military advisor. And then he fails at it miserably
because
and
he's
then
Star-Lord.
ruins his entire empire. And I was like, Ronan has a reason to be mad. Like, I would be mad. Like, dude, I gave you one job and then you just messed it up. Like, I trusted you.
Yeah.
Yeah. The last fact was actually blew my mind because it was just, I don't know. So basically, Thanos' brother's name is Star Fox. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
And he's actually a sex offender.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Marvel, okay, I take it back. Marvel can do wrong.
Marvel really can do wrong. DC can too, but like it just shows that some characters that are made are not perfect at all.
Exactly.
I mean, they're supposed to have flaws, but there's just some characters who probably shouldn't have been made, who were made. But yeah, so his Star Fox's very existence pretty much makes Thanos look ridiculous. And it's because while Thanos is like, I need to destroy the universe, he's looking for dates, like relationships. And I was like, okay, I could see why Thanos would be disappointed in his brother. It's like, you're not going to help me. You're just
black
going to
sheep of the family.
you're not going to help me do this. You're just going to, and I wonder how Mentor feels about like,
honestly,
Star
to
Fox.
me,
Like,
okay, so sex offender, I mean, yeah, that's a horrible thing, but I mean, he's looking for dates compared to Thanos, who's like, I'm gonna go destroy everything,
and pretty much he wants to be with death, like death.
So in my opinion, Mentor, if I was Mentor, yeah, I kind of hate my sons both, but at the same time, it's like, all right, this guy's want to destroy the world. I'm like, or the universe. I'm gonna push him aside a little bit more. Hence, why he would send Drax to go kill him, I guess.
Yeah. I don't So what even I got a kick out of even more was Star Fox's superpower. It's a pheromone which makes people feel pleasure and attracted to him.
Oh,
useless. God. Like, I don't understand this. Why? Like,
this
why?
just makes it even worse.
It's just. He makes men look bad. Like he makes men in comic books look bad. So like Marvel's like, okay, we really messed this up. Like this character like is done. And they realize this, and Dan Slott, he actually writes for Spider-Man now.
Yes.
His She-Hulk, one of his I think his She-Hulk storyline, when Star Fox is sued for sexual offender charges by She-Hulk because she's a lawyer.
Yeah,
and it's
if you don't know that, if you don't know this, She-Hulk is actually a lawyer. So, I mean, I like how they corrected it, especially with the fact that it's She-Hulk being the lawyer, a woman, and also a superpowered woman going against him. I thought that was awesome. But honestly, I'm glad they corrected it.
But in the picture that I saw, his pheromone just makes her attracted to him, so nothing's gonna happen to him.
What?
Yeah, I was like, what? She-Hulk could literally probably tear this guy a new one, and the pheromone is that strong where it's just like instant attraction. Okay.
Oh, God.
But yeah, those are the facts that I found out from once again Rob Bricken on io9.gizmodo.com about the Guardians of the Galaxy movie that you wouldn't see in the movie. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We'll be right back with some comic book facts from the DC universe.
I'm an alligator. I'm a mama, papa coming for you. I'm a space invader. I'll be a rock and rollin' bitch for you. Keep your mouth shut. Just walking like a big monkey bird. And I'm busting up my brains for the world. Keep your electric on me, babe. With your ray gun to my head. Press your space close to my love. Freak out in a moon age daydream, oh yeah. Don't fake it, baby. Lay the real thing on me. The church of mad love is such a holy place to be. Make me, baby. Make me know you really care. Make me jump into the air. Keep your electric on me, babe. Put your ray gun to my head. Press your space close to my love. Freak out in a moon age daydream, oh yeah. Yeah. Keep your electric on me, babe. Put your ray gun to my head. Press your space close to my love. Freak out in a moon age daydream, oh. Keep your electric eye on me, babe. Put your ray gun to my head. Press your space close to my love. Freak out in a moon age daydream, oh yeah. Freak out, far out, in out.
That was David Bowie with his song Moon Age Daydream, which you may have heard in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. That was part of the, what was it, the Volume 1 of, God, I'm blanking on the name
Volume
of it.
1 mixtape thing.
Yeah, it
I
was
think
like great something mixtape or whatever.
Yeah,
I'm always blanking on the names of this stuff, but great soundtrack. Definitely look up the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. And before that, you heard the Beatles with their song Rocky Raccoon, which was the inspiration for Rocket Raccoon. Okay, so moving on to the second topic, which is comic book facts about the DC universe that you have never heard about in movies. So thanks to Comics Alliance and Screen Rant, which is where I got these facts from. There's a video on, I believe it was Comics Alliance, which had a couple of the Suicide Squad facts as well. So I definitely go check those stuff out afterwards. So the first team of the Suicide Squad wasn't even villains. So Task Force X wasn't even villains originally. It was actually a bunch of ragtag misfits from World War II. They were military misfits, and they were led by Rick Flag Jr.
I do. Oh, I like Rick Flag. I think he's a definitely good leader, but I guess you got to start somewhere. You know, you can't start off with like the cream of the crop. So you got to start and kind of build. And I guess back then they didn't think about putting villains on a team that would actually help the government.
Yeah, completely. So like I think honestly the name of it though, like the Suicide Squad, like they thought of like it was a ragtag team that nobody really cared about. So we're gonna throw them out there and go do our stuff for us. So I get where that came from. And then later on in the comics, this is where the first villain team was introduced. And this is now, instead of being run by the government, it's being run by Amanda Waller. So I guess in a sense they rebooted the title. They decided, you know what, the Suicide Squad, it'd be cool if we did villains. So the first villain team, actually two of the characters that were featured in the team were Blockbuster, which is a big Nightwing villain. If you've read the Chuck Dixon comics of Nightwing, he's like a big character that he battles throughout, like, I think it's the first 3 books. I haven't gotten the 4th one yet, but
is he just like a giant, like?
Yeah, he's a giant, like green or gray, like monster looking guy or whatever. He's got a big forehead. It was weird, but him and then also Captain Boomerang was one of the original members. So it's funny to see that.
Yeah, considering he's one of Flash's rogues and he appears in a lot of Flash comics now.
And also the fact that, you know, they made the whole joke in the movie that he doesn't play nice with others, which is like, I mean, he was in the original villain cast, so. Yeah. But actually, Blockbuster was shown in a comic while I was watching this movie this video that Comics Alliance showed. It was a little snippet from the comic of Captain Boomerang reacting to the fact that on a mission, Blockbuster was killed. So
he clearly has some like a heart to his character because he actually cares for his teammates.
Oh yeah,
being like,
and I mean we'll learn about that a little bit with Boomerang in just a sec, but he does in fact have a heart to an extent. So with that, later on, they added in like fan favorite Deadshot. He was awesome in that movie. Will Smith, as much as I was iffy originally about Will Smith playing Deadshot, he was awesome in it. Loved every minute of him. Bronze Tiger.
I'm thinking that's the guy with he has these metal claws. They're like Wolverine claws, but they're not attached to obviously not attached to his body. They're just stuff he puts on, and that's I'm pretty sure he appeared in an episode of Arrow at one point.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then obviously they brought back Boomerang. Rick Flag Jr. Was leading the team again, and then actually Barbara Gordon was part of the Suicide Squad, but not as Batgirl. This was her first ever appearance as Oracle.
That's insane. She's not even like that's insane because I guess they wanted to combine the team of like villains with like
someone to watch over them, I guess.
Yeah, but she's not. I feel like her character now would be like, I'm not doing that. Like I'm with the Bat family. Like I'm not going anywhere near the Suicide Squad.
But that's news to me. Like I always thought that like Oracle came in, like first appearance was in like a Batman comic.
You would think, but yeah. That's cool to know. That's
cool I never knew her first appearance was in Suicide Squad. So, and then of course, not many people know this, but Killer Croc was not originally supposed to be in Suicide Squad. The movie was going to try to adapt the comics more and use King Shark, who was in the Suicide Squad in the comics. But instead, they decided to throw King Shark to the DC TV universe, and they brought in Killer Croc. And now, honestly, both of those characters are awesome. I love both those characters just because of the fact that I found out about them through the movies and like stuff like that. I mean, Killer Croc I know about from the Arkham games. Let's be real here. That's how I know about him.
Well, I mean, he had a presence in the Arkham games, especially the Arkham Asylum.
That was awesome. That fight, or the boss fight, I guess you would call it, where you have to like escape his tunnels, freaked me out every time I tried to play it.
Yeah, because he's a huge crocodile, like 7 to 8 feet tall, like trying to like take you down. King Shark was actually in the Assault on Arkham movie that Warner Brothers put out. I forget. I don't remember how long ago. I actually did not see that. How was it? It was awesome. It was the first animated movie that I've ever seen, and I'm pretty sure that they've ever done with a cast of villains. And Batman was in it, but he was like tastefully in it, where he wasn't in it all the time, but he was in it for like the right scenes. And I thought that's actually one of my favorite animated movies that DC's released.
Really?
Just to see, like, because I actually started liking King Shark from that movie and the Suicide Squad, which then inspired me to go like to the comic shop and pick up, I think, Suicide Squad, The New 52 by Adam Glass, Volume 1, which was fantastic. If you haven't read that and you're interested in the Suicide Squad, definitely go pick one up at your local shop.
I like the little story of Kevin Smith told the story of how King Shark ended up on Flash. So originally, Kevin Smith just wasn't going to watch Flash. He wasn't into it, just never really had time or whatever it was. And then Jason Mewes, like, lives across the street from him, or like a block away or whatever, runs to his house. Usually he just calls when like there's something up or whatever, but he runs to the house. So Kevin thought there was something wrong, and he goes, dude, turn on the Flash. King Shark is on. And he's like, what? They're like even trying to do King Shark? That's like really gutsy. Like, because he's a B-list character. No one really knew of him much. And so that's how he got hooked with Flash. And then it turns out he's directing an episode in season 2. Now he's directing another episode in season 3 coming out soon, and he's directing a Supergirl episode now. So, I mean, with that, I thought that was cool how I found out about King Shark through that.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of B-list characters need more attention. Like, I feel like Martian Manhunter is one of those characters who falls down there, even though he should be up in the A-list, but it's okay. King Shark is really interesting, and I would love to see more with him. I remember seeing a comic cover of him originally, and it was him like chasing after Superboy, which was interesting, because now it's like, all right, so like, were you originally like a Superboy villain, or like what? How did he? But he looked awesome either way. So I'd love to see more of him, definitely.
And then moving on, we've got Harley Quinn, everybody's favorite, from the Suicide Squad movie. She first debuted in Batman the Animated Series, created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini.
Yes.
And she wasn't even like a comic book character. They made her in the animated series, and then later on we're like, you know what, she's kind of popular, we'll throw her into the comic.
She's such an awesome character, and the design for her in that series, like the Batman the Animated Series, if you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. The character designs alone and the stories that were for each episode is its own distinct story, and it kind of grows on into more later on in the series. But wow, like,
yeah, I mean, so her first comic was actually drawn by Bruce Timm as well. So it's kind of funny how like he created her with Paul Dini, and then finally they're like, okay, we're gonna bring her into the continuity of the DC comic universe. So I'm gonna draw her again. I just thought that was like that's so like touching in a sense. That's like the fact that like people create something and they just continue to do it.
I'm pretty sure Paul Dini's really happy today just about how much attention she's got and like how her books are doing too.
And it's crazy to think that like this is another fact. She was originally only meant to exist as a cameo in the animated series and then just go off. Like, she was just going to be the Joker's psychiatrist, I guess, and then they were just going to end it with that episode or whatever. So it's crazy.
I'm so glad they didn't, because she's such an interesting villain.
Yeah, and the way they've like evolved her over time. I mean, she's dated other people in the Joker. She's dated Poison Ivy, for example. So she's kind of broke that stereotype of like, I guess, heterosexuality in comics, and now, at least in the DC universe, in my opinion, and like, kind of showed, hey, it's whatever, I do whatever I want. This is the times now, I guess you would say. But I like the fact that she's out there and she just has become her own woman now, where like she doesn't always have to follow the Joker. In fact, she was even once an Amazonian. Like I'm sure this surprises you.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Yeah, so one of the many escapades of Harley Quinn, it included her reforming her, I guess you'd say her evil ways, and she ended up being taken in to an Amazonian women's shelter located on some island, and she removed the face paint, ended up becoming this skilled warrior. And she was part Amazonian, I guess. It's just strange to even think about.
There's
that.
secretly some story out there where Wonder Woman trains Harley Quinn to become an Amazon, and the island's actually Themyscira. I would love that if that was actually a thing. Oh my god.
And so now we're gonna find out why Boomerang actually has a heart. So originally, Captain Boomerang had a rough childhood, being the son of an American soldier and an Australian woman. He didn't know his father's name for a really long time, actually. So, like, the war ended and his father just went back to America. After robbing a store in Australia, he was sent to Central City to work at his father's toy factory, where his father actually gave him the identity of Captain Boomerang to show off a new product, like some boomerang. So he dressed him up in this blue suit with boomerangs all over it and the hat. It was like, here's Captain Boomerang. Look at our product.
It all starts with toys.
It all starts with toys and marketing ploys. So with that, the audience ridicule led to pretty much the end of his toy company promotions career, and then led to his life of crime. So, of course, Boomerang saw this boomerang and was like, you know what? I don't enjoy what I do, even though that I did get fired from my job. Boomerangs aren't fun to show off. They're fun to do mischievous things. So he became Captain Boomerang, and just kind of stuck with his name from there. Kept his name from his father. So he actually does have a son in the comics. And this is why I say he has a heart. Because his son's name is Owen Mercer, with Melanie Thawne, who is a resident of the 30th century. And if that last name sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah, considering Reverse Flash Eobard Thawne is from the 30th century.
So Melanie Thawne also gave birth to another person, a superhero, in fact, Impulse.
That's insane.
Yeah. So it's strange to see that, but honestly, that shows why he has a heart. In fact, and at times, he's taken his son Owen with him to do a father-son, like, evil, like, plans and stuff, and just went on to go do crimes together. And in some alternate timeline, I read that Boomerang actually is killed, and Owen takes up his father's mantle as Captain Boomerang. Of course he does. Yeah.
That'd be cool to see him and Impulse like have a conflict.
Oh, yeah.
And meet.
So moving on, I love this fact, and it's going to really just get on the nerves of Chris. Enchantress. So her first introduction to the world, in her first introduction, her nickname was plastered on the front cover of the comic book for everyone to see. And it was just the worst nickname in the entire, like, comic book history, in my opinion. I mean, like, Webhead, Wallcrawler, The Dark Knight, Man of Steel, all these nicknames, everybody's like, all right, that kind of works with it. They named the Enchantress the Switcheroo Witcheroo. Yeah, I can see your face, Chris. For those who obviously aren't here and just listening to us, the look of just disbelief and shame for DC Comics is coming from this man's face. And I love every minute of it.
He scraped the bottom of the barrel with that name. Oh, God.
So she is actually two different people, though. So they finally decided to scrap that nickname. So
Thank
there.
God. Do something right, DC. Do something right.
Yeah. So she is two different people inside the body of June Moon. They constantly fight for the body, and when June speaks the name Enchantress, the witch is released and has control of the body. So we saw that in the Suicide Squad movie, but I just thought I'd throw that in there because not many people do know that it's two different people. Mm-hmm. A lot of people just think, okay, it's June becoming Enchantress. So actually, no, it's two different entities inside of June,
Fighting for the host kind of thing.
which is cool.
That is cool.
So the witch persona is actually an evil entity from another dimension. Many people the movie kind of gave it a different background, saying she was like just on Earth for millions of years, just inside this little like thing that.
It's just like an ancient civilization kind of thing, I feel like.
So instead, in the comics, it was actually from another dimension. She's also a founding member of the Shadow Pact super team, and she was once killed by Superman in the Flashpoint universe, which is crazy. Like, okay, don't get me wrong, we've seen Superman kill in like Injustice and all that other stuff, but like, he's killing her of all people.
I want to know if this is like this can't be the same Clark. I feel like this is an alternate dimension. I feel like.
Well, I mean, I remember. Was it? It was Flashpoint. I watched the movie Flashpoint, and we see Superman is like this skinny, lanky, tall character who like looks like just bones and skin.
But he didn't look like he could hurt a fly. So that's what makes me think.
But in the comics, I saw a picture of like normal Clark, like in Superman, in his Superman suit, punching through Enchantress.
Okay, so she must have did something like as bad as what the Joker did to him in Injustice, because that's insane.
So that must have been something with Flashpoint or whatever it was. But it was crazy to see that. Like, I'm shocked because it took forever to kill them to kill her in the movie.
Yeah, but then again, this is Superman we're talking about.
True.
Like, God, that's insane. All right, guys. Well, you could take WRKC wherever you go with the TuneIn Radio app. You can also listen live from our website, wrkc.kings.edu.
And also, we're going to play 2 more songs for you guys before we sign off. We're going to be a little bit over, unfortunately, today. But right now, we're going to play Sympathy for the Devil, a cover by Motorhead. And the original song was in the Suicide Squad movie. All right, that was Motorhead's cover of Sympathy for the Devil, which is obviously played originally by the Rolling Stones. The original was used in the Suicide Squad movie soundtrack. So with that, looks like our time is up. We're a little bit over today, but we started like a couple minutes late due to my laptop deciding to shut down on me. So with that, thank you all for joining us. This has been Geek Week with Chris and Nick.
Once again, I'm Chris Natawi.
And I am Nick Rotundo.
Be sure to check out our SoundCloud account, soundcloud.com/geekweek885. If you missed any part of the show or want to share it with family and friends, also be sure to like us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/geekweek885.
Tune in next week to hear us talk about the Marvel and DC TV universes. That is Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and the list goes on and on. So, we will be back next week. Keep on listening.
That was Geek Week with Chris and Nick. Be sure to tune in next week at 6 p.m.